Say what? I would love to drink alcohol in school. I'm not denying it. I'm just saying that I'm more responsible than that because I need this job. So let's not kid around about serious stuff because I really need this job. Okay. Here comes my transportation plan for the future. Every one of your technologies has some cost and benefits. You know, they all make jobs somewhere, they all offer economic potential somewhere, they're all kind of dangerous somewhere. But I want to come up with a future that is smart, like we switch when we should. Remember what I said about the guy that had the first cell phone, like my dad? You don't want to get stuck adopting something too early. You want to be the guy who jumps on at just the sweet spot. So here's my plan to take advantage of the potential of all these technologies. Number one, we've got a lot of conventional gasoline, gas stations, refined cars, mechanics, and parts. We should use them all up. We already made them, we might as well use them. But I'll tell you what, when Jose becomes president, not one more new gasoline vehicle. We should definitely use them, absolutely. We've got factories that can still, we've got the parts that can still, we've got the workers that can still. I don't want to waste any of what we've already invested and built in, but gasoline should die pretty soon. It's kind of the worst choice. Because it is pretty dirty. It's not as efficient as diesel and not as cheap as natural gas, so even among the fossil fuels, it's the worst choice. Remember who we're making rich when we buy gasoline. Number two, as soon as we get ethanol that is non-agricultural, I want to start revving up our ethanol usage. I'm really not okay with growing corn for cars. But as soon as we have non-agricultural ethanol, I'm into it. We can use wood chips pretty soon, we can use bark, we can use grasses, we can use other parts of the corn plant that are already going to waste. So as soon as we can make non-agricultural ethanol, I say we do it. It'll stretch the life of our gasoline and cut our fossil fuel carbon emissions. So right on. Ethanol as soon as it's not corn. You know, some vehicles are always going to need diesel. And, you know, if you had to buy a car today, you might even be able to get a diesel. But I think we got to really clean up our petroleum-based diesel. We should catch up to countries that make cleaner diesel standards. There's a lot of them. And then we should really get into that biodiesel. If we can make the algae diesel, holy mackerel, I would get really excited. You know, we're always going to need those high torque outputs. You cannot dig a big hole in the dirt without diesel. So I can't wait to have sustainable biodiesel. That has a future for me. This thing about the algae and pre-treating wastewater with it, or farming kelp, which coincidentally helps seafood industries. You know, kelp is the fastest growing thing on earth, right? That's the best way we have to absorb carbon. Like, yeah, let's make more kelp. If you don't harvest it, it makes more seafood. Love it. And number 4, we really should hybrid everything. I mean, we should really hybrid everything. But again, I'd like to wait until our batteries are a little nicer. They're a little more sensitive and smarter. You know, it doesn't take that long. Technology goes fast. People will get rich. You might be the one. You go to university, you get your nanotechnology and physics double major. you work in a good lab and start dorking out on batteries, you might be like the most rich person in the history of money. We're not too far. It'll be in your lifetime. Maybe it'll be someone you know. Maybe it'll be you. We're going to get better batteries. We're going to get simpler motors. At that point, hybrid everything. I mean, brakes are such a stupid idea. I mean, brakes is better than no brakes. But the way that we brake now is stupid. I'll tell you what, hydrogen is a great way to transfer energy. So hydrogen fuel cells, you know, they're just electric cars. Hydrogen fuel cells could make a lot of sense as long as we were making the hydrogen in a smart way. Like today, if you gotta burn a bunch of coal to make a little hydrogen, that's not smart. But you know, your future nation will have a lot more solar panels and wind turbines. And do you realize that if people aren't using the electricity, solar panels and wind turbines are shut down? A lot of times, solar panels and wind turbines don't make electricity because nobody needs it and there's no place to store it. What if we used hydrogen as a way to store extra electricity? You know, if it's really sunny and it's really windy, you don't need all that electricity. But you could just use that electricity to make some hydrogen, put it in a bottle, ship it up to Alaska where they don't have enough sunlight or whatever. You understand what I'm saying? Hydrogen is energy storage. To me, that makes sense. In our sustainable electricity future, use cheap electricity to make hydrogen without CO2 emissions, and then use that hydrogen to offset energy sources that give off CO2 again. Double whammy. Number 6, natural gas is probably the best fossil fuels. Like, you already have natural gas in everybody's houses. Of the fossil fuels, it is the cleanest. America has a lot. So if we're going to use fossil fuels, at least it's a national fossil fuel. And it's cheap and the cars are simple and all that stuff. Lives would be saved if you couldn't accelerate so quickly. Sorry to spoil your fun. So I think natural gas, is our transitional, it'll be our last fossil fuel in my opinion, for cars. Vegetable oil, sure, let's use up all the waste oil, yes. That's a small chunk change of our total oil. And then let's see if we can find other ways, like I said, the algae thing. And you know what I think the real future is? Electric. But we need 3 things for electric cars, and we don't have any of them. We need 3 things for electric cars, and we're not there yet. For electric cars, in my humble opinion, we need carbon-free electricity. And we don't really have that right now. We need better and smarter batteries. And we're not really there yet. And we need a modernized grid. Right now, our grid couldn't handle either of those things. The batteries or the electricity. So that's kind of a lot of stuff to change. I really do believe electric cars are the future, but hey, you want to hear the electric car future? You pull up at a stoplight, a little magnet at the intersection reads your electricity level, swaps out your battery, and you keep driving, they send you a bill. The electrical companies own the batteries, service the batteries, maintain them at an optimum efficiency, keep them all clean and whatever, handle all the recycling, it's all centralized. Little underground conveyor belt takes all the batteries to wherever we make the most cheap electricity, and we just move them around fully charged. You never touch the charging, you're not in charge of anything. You pull up at the intersection, you don't even know, you keep driving. Endless mileage, carbon neutral, or carbon free because they're charged at a place that has sustainable electricity. The most efficient way to use the batteries is to use them often. How do you like that? That's a neat future, right? What? That what?
That makes no sense. How would that work?
Jose for president.
So you're gonna build a conveyor belt, hundreds of miles.
Yeah. The conveyor belt just has to go to a centralized station. They can use trains or whatever to move them, electric trains.
I'm fine with the conveyor belt, but there's just a spot underneath the ground and
every intersection, major intersection, whatever.
and so what
The intersections that have a green wibbity wobbity on it. You don't have to refuel it. You just every time you go over one of the wibbity wobbity lights, it just swaps out your battery for you.
There are no lights on the
You can just pull it every 100 miles. That's less infrastructure density than gas stations. Yeah. Why? What?
People don't choose when they fuel up. They're going to think they're being scammed.
They could have a thing that tracks their wattage and mileage and lets them know that they're going to see it happen. I mean, they could all compare. My car gave me 3,000 miles per kilowatt. Your car gave me 3,000 miles per charge. Well, I'm saying, yeah. How would you be?
Everyone's in it together.
Right.
Being scammed.
Everybody knows that the people in power never scam you. Obviously. And hey, I've got one last community service message in my final 2 minutes of class. This is an important one. Most of you can't do any of the decisions that we've talked about all day. Most of you would either be lucky to get a car or don't get much choice or choose in other ways. So let me just drop one thing, because you're all entering car world about, give or take, the next couple of years or so. Here's one thing I gotta tell you. Every one of you can have a much more efficient vehicle if you just lay off the pedals and you kill less people. Drive slower, brake less. Save money, save lives. It's not a bad idea.
got it hammered now.
Yeah.